Hello and welcome to the 8th episode of Tech Nuggets and Thoughts. Today we are going to talk about Coderetreat. The reason is because we are just returning from the event and our base city, Pune, was the world capital of Coderetreat on this GDCR day, that is Global Day of Coderetreat. And in Pune we had 12 Coderetreat events across the city, and our very own Christian and Siddesh were the guiding forces for 10 of those events. And that's a very, very amazing feat of achievement. And today we are going to talk about what Coderetreat is. So,
just to add something, we also had 2 events in Germany and 1 event in Nepal.
Right. Sorry, I missed that.
And on the entire planet, the community organized 154 events on that one single day. So you can have a Coderetreat anytime you like, but as the software craft community, we kind of agree that on a single day in the year, we are going to organize as many Coderetreats as possible. And that happens on the Global Day of Coderetreat. That was 16th of November 2019. 154 events. There must have been like 1,500 to 2,000 developers meeting worldwide to, whatever they do on the Coderetreat.
It all sounds very interesting, but could you guys help me understand what is Coderetreat?
So, a Coderetreat, if you take the word, it has 2 components. Code, which means it is about coding and improving our skills in coding. And the word retreat is a word that you would actually normally feel in the world of spirituality or religion, where people use retreats to take time out of their normal life and meet for meditation, yoga, or whatever. So you use a retreat to improve a certain spiritual aspect of yourself. And now the word retreat in this context obviously means something else. It's not about spirituality, especially if you know a little bit of my background, then you know it's definitely not. But it's taking a time out. And the time out aspect is, in our daily life as developers, we try to get code done. And for most of us, getting code done is the top priority of the day. For many of us, getting code well is not the top priority of the day. Whether it should be is another discussion for another podcast. But the point of a Coderetreat is, on that day, we are not trying to get code done. We are trying to get code well. So we're trying to write the best code we possibly can with the knowledge of the day and push that to the limits.
So it's like, in the spiritual sense, it's a retreat for the code itself, so that betterment of the code.
Yes, betterment of the code and betterment of how we approach code.
Right.
So this is an event where programmers would participate and experience the coding.
Yes.
So this is not something that they'll just listen to what being preached.
No. So how much teaching is involved depends on your facilitator and the style of facilitator. There is no prescribed style. But the key is exercise, practice.
Repetitive.
Yes, the repetitive, deliberate practice. For example, if you look at a musician, if you want to play an instrument, if you want to learn an instrument like piano, guitar, or whatever, you are going to repeat the same pieces over and over again. And if we earn our living with programming, we should behave like professionals. But what is the difference between an amateur and a professional? An amateur practices until they get it right. A professional practices until they can no longer get it wrong.
Interesting.
Nice.
And on a Coderetreat, we take a programming exercise, and whatever angle of attack we take, we try to improve that and improve our skills in how we approach the problem, so that for this particular programming exercise, we finally reach to a point where we have professionalism, where we no longer can get it wrong. Now, of course, in getting it right, there are still a lot of variations possible. That's something which evolves over time, but we may go into that a little bit deeper later. So, Siddharth, maybe you want to tell us a bit about the structure of a Coderetreat. How it's a full day event, how such an event is run.
Yeah, so basically, the entire day consists of multiple sessions, usually 4 to 7 sessions. Every session is of 45 minutes. And what happens is, at the start of the event, the facilitator or the facilitator will explain them the problem. Usually the problem is the game of life, but people are free to choose whatever problem they want. So the facilitator will explain them the problem. That's the whatever problem they have to work on that day. And he'll also tell them some simple rules. So the rules are like they have to work on the solution with a pair. So a pair programming is must. They need to follow up test-driven development, and then there would be some additional constraint which would be put later during the next constraints. During the next sessions. And the first session is basically started, time box for 45 minutes. So during the first session, the pairs set and try to find a solution. Now, the focus, as Krishna said, is not to complete the solution, but to write the best possible code. So basically, even if you write one line of the code in that 45 minutes, but that line of code is the best code of your life, that's what is important. So this is where it differs a bit from Hackathon, or rather differs a lot from Hackathon, because here the result is not important. Here the way you write it is important. So it's fine. Not everyone, in fact, 99% of people do not come up with a solution even at the last session. It's completely fine. But they do realize a lot of things about programming, about the language, about the skills, about the technology by the end of the day.
So this is not a competition.
Exactly, it's not a competition. It's
just a learning event.
Yeah. So the first session in Typebox for 45 minutes, people are asked to pair. So they pair, and usually we work with people, we pair with people with whom we don't usually interact. That is the beauty of it, because if you are working with someone, you already know their weakness, their strengths. But when you are working with someone you don't know him, he's or she is a complete stranger. In that case, you get to learn a lot, because you have to work on 2 levels. First is you need to understand that person, and second is you need to work on the solution. So you have to deal on both of the levels. So after 45 minutes, the facilitator will ask people to stop writing the code, and here comes the most funny part. They have to delete the code.
Yeah, that's very interesting. People do not like to delete
that.
They literally beg you, please, to let them keep the code.
Yes.
And there is a reason behind it. Christian, I will explain it.
Yeah, it's very important during a Coderetreat to actually delete your code. It is a very conscious decision, because the value that we generate during the Coderetreat is not the code written. The value that we generate is how we improve our mind about how we write code. And we consciously delete the code to say the code is not what it was about. It is our mind, the improvement of our thinking about code that we wanted to improve. And another aspect about that is, so as Siddharth explained, in the next session, you may pair with somebody else. We want to make sure that every session can start fresh, without the baggage of the previous session. Because when we look at the problem statement, which typically would be Conway's Game of Life, There are different ways how you can approach the problem statement. And typically, the first approaches are not the best approaches. But if you cling to your existing solution, it can be very difficult to improve. We want to make sure that people also lose the fear of deleting code.
Christian, but I seriously think that you misled the audience while we started this podcast. You said it has nothing to do with spirituality. But the more I'm listening to it, it's everything related to spirituality.
Yeah. So
you are disengaging yourself from your code, and that's the whole point of spirituality. Right? You're not loving your own baby, so you're letting go that code so that you can improve.
Another reference to the same thing I was going to give was also a bit spiritual. The Chinese saying of empty your cup.
Right.
It's like that. So you have to delete your code so that you can start afresh. You can learn from the new partner that you pair up with. Yeah.
So now we have fair understanding what Coderetreat is, and there's something called a GDCR where Coderetreat is simultaneously happening in multiple cities across the world at various locations. And now that you have conducted it, facilitated it yourself, can you tell me something about your experiences, good, bad, what you expected, what didn't go as per expectation?
So, for me, this year, I've stopped counting how many Coderetreats I have helped organizing, how many Coderetreats I have facilitated. I stopped counting, but I can tell you,
that's it. That's good way of saying that you have done so many of it.
Yeah. But I can tell you, learning never ends.
Right.
So for training the facilitators, because for running a Coderetreat, you need a facilitator. And if you have a larger audience, you need more than one facilitator. One facilitator should have at max like 12 people. But the fewer people per facilitator, the better people can learn, because the facilitator will help the people, guide the people, review the code, give hints here and there, ask smart questions. And so we train facilitators as part of the preparation of the Global Day of Coderetreat. Don't know how many facilitator training sessions we had this year, like 4 or 5 facilitator training sessions. Some of them where we went to a company like MDocs, which were really a big event. Sometimes where a company offered us that we can run a facilitator training in their premises, and then they sent their own facilitators. But it was an open event, so people from all other companies could also join. Taviska helped us a lot with that. Other companies like Equal Experts and Technogize and Red Panda were also quite open in helping us with providing facilities. So I've done a lot of activities, and for the training, I prepare a solution which the facilitators can look at if they like. They don't have to. It's up to the facilitator. It's on their own decision whether they look at it or not. But every year, my solution looks different, even if I use the same language. How I write the solution for Conway's Game of Life, how I wrote it this year, differed from last year, and that differed from the year before. So, although I have like 35 years of experience in coding now, I started in 1984, I'm still learning. Everybody is still learning. The whole industry is still learning. We're quite a young industry. Why do we have so many programming languages? Why are new programming languages born all the time? That's also an artifact of our industry continuously learning and improving. So it never gets boring. That's one of the great things. It never gets boring. You always learn a new thing. And even if you think you found the best solution, it could always happen. You have a participant in your Coderetreat and you get a new insight, a new approach, or something like that.
there's usually never a single solution to any problem, at least in our space.
Yes.
There's always multiple solutions. It's all about choosing the right one in the right context. So, yeah.
Again, sounding very spiritual.
And again, it is not about the solution. It is about the approach you take to come to that solution. So we want people to explore that. It's fine if they don't. And as I said, that I have not seen a lot of people ending up with a solution. It's fine, but they end up with a lot of realization. So usually, it's always fun to see the end retrospective where people just and they are exhausted, but they enjoy the session. They enjoy the day. They talk about what they have learned. So it's always fun to listen to the retrospective at the end of the day.
One of the findings in that retrospective, that in the session that I attended, few folks strongly believed that writing code means writing code. And at the end of the session, it was very eye-opening for them to find that they are supposed to write tests before code, and test is the first code that you have to write even before writing actual functional code. And it was a funny moment to hear them speak about it.
Yeah, that actually brings us to one of the reasons why we run Coderetreats. In most environments that I observe, that I deal with my clients, I see a very strong focus around training on technologies. And I think that a lot of us in our industry, that is developers, that is managers, that is HRs, are blind towards principles and practices. And the Coderetreat is an excellent event to move the focus a little bit from technology, where technology is just a tool or a vehicle, to principles and practices. The facilitator in a Coderetreat will give you, as the audience, challenges, constraints, activities that you have to perform. Pair programming is always there on a Coderetreat, which is really awesome because, as Silj explained, you get so much to learn from different people throughout the day. But there's a few more. Test-driven development is there, and then we can give other constraints like no variable assignments to drive the people towards more functional programming, no if statements, no switch statements to drive the people more towards object-oriented programming, and like no loops that drives the people more towards a mix between object-oriented and functional programming, more towards map-reduce thinking. So there's so many things we can teach people with choosing the right constraints. And then the job of the facilitator is to see what is the level of skill and experience of the people in their group, and then for the next session, choose the right set of constraints. It can even be something like a no mouse. If you see people not knowing any keyboard shortcuts at all, and you see they're wasting their time pushing that mouse around, then you can give them a no mouse and no touchpad constraint. They're going to hate you for 20 minutes, but after that, they're going to be much faster because they've memorized a few keyboard shortcuts. It will save them time for the rest of their programming lives.
Yeah. The IntelliJ IDEA users have a way to skip through that. Just go hit Control Alt A, Control Shift A, and you have one text box to search for every setting idea.
Yeah.
You don't need to know any other shortcut.
IntelliJ IDEA is just, it is amazing. I'm using it since 2013. 14. 2014. Yeah.
I should go to them and ask for sponsorship.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it's like that. Once you use IDEA, it's very hard to go back to your previous idea. There's no way to go back.
Also, I think Visual Studio Code is becoming a serious contender. Others like Eclipse and NetBeans definitely are not.
That's very rare coming from Christian. that he's praising Microsoft.
Oh, Microsoft has good products. Age of Empires, for example. Or the Microsoft scoped ergonomic keyboard. Yeah, they just should stay out of the operating system market.
I like the AOE 2 better.
Yeah, actually it's AOE 2 that I'm talking about as well. Yeah.
So, can Nikhil, Christian, Siddesh tell me about one interesting moment of your Coderetreat? One interesting moment where you have never imagined or visualized that something like this would happen. Somebody would surprise you.
Well, what I can tell is in the Coderetreat we ran at Amdocs. There was a lunch break and the facilitators tried to get the people from the machines to the food, but it was difficult. People started, continued coding, they were inseparable with their machines. That's how deeply engaged people were and how motivated they were.
And I just saw at one of the instances at Redshift, the facilitators were doing the Coderetreat for the first time, but they were doing it so well. So when there was this retrospective happening, the discussion was so good and so intense that I guess it lasted more than 20 minutes to 30 minutes where people didn't even realize it. Neither did I. And that's the beauty of it. You're not restricted to something. Like you have to see whatever makes it productive, whatever is giving out knowledge. If retrospective is giving out knowledge, continue the retrospective. If, the only thing is we try to time the session for some time so that people need to, start the new constraint as soon as possible. But we can always keep the retrospective, we can extend it. So the retrospective was so good and I really did not feel that those people were doing it for the first time. That was really surprising.
Yeah, actually, I think this is a good moment to thank all the facilitators all around the globe for their efforts running these Coderetreats, because they prepare, they attend training sessions to get trained as facilitators, they prepare material, they prepare knowing the problem statement, they prepare questions for the retrospective, they are there before the event starts, they are still there after the event is over. And many of them even then gather after the event online or with their peers to discuss what went well, what can be improved, and how they're going to do it differently next time. So thanks a lot to all the facilitators all around the globe.
Yeah. Probably it just happens because of the excitement. The facilitators themselves are so excited about it that probably just we can't stop talking about it, taking it from you.
Yeah, I mean, why is it that we organize 13 Coderetreats, 10 in Pune, 2 in Germany, 1 in Nepal? Because we are very excited about the topic. And by the way, it's a free event. Yeah, we didn't mention it before, I think, but it's a free event. You don't pay any attendance fee. And also when we at Nelkinda perform facilitator training, we do that free of charge. As long as you're a facilitator for a Coderetreat that is public and where there is no charge, we train you free of charge.
Oh. That's a good service to community. Nikhil, you're interesting.
Yeah, so I have two. It was very interesting to find that infinity is really, really hard to imagine. So, I
explain that.
Yeah, you know what Woody Allen says about this? Infinity is a very long time, especially towards its end.
Yeah. Nice. So, so as it happens that the problem statement talks about there's an infinite 2D space. Yeah. The concept of how do you imagine infinite? How do you represent infinity in programming? And everyone starts with the 2D array. And that's probably fine as the first iteration or the first starting point. But it's interesting to to see people think and evolve towards a truly infinite implementation of that concept. And even more interesting, when everyone discusses this, and later on they realize that what we defined as infinite is still limited by the system's resources and various other things. And so the concept of infinity turns out to be very difficult for us to imagine.
But I can tell you that it's possible. So it's going to be, you can again say it's going to be a bit spiritual now. For me, it's not spiritual, it's scientific. If you think of it, the size of the universe, what is the smallest length that we are currently able to process with our current science? It's a Planck length. The Planck length is approximately 10 to the power of minus 35 meters.
Okay.
That's the smallest thing in the universe, at least according to current scientific understanding. What is the largest thing of the universe? The largest thing of the universe is our observable universe. That's approximately 10 to the power of 23 meters. The first mind-blowing thing is that on this logarithmic scale, the size of a human is closer to the size of the universe than the smallest thing. But if you add the numbers up, if you have something that can express 10 to the power of 60, so a 10 with 60 zeros, which in a computer obviously easily you can do, you have something that by all practical means is infinite, in the sense that the space that can be coordinated with that is bigger than the universe.
Okay.
So it is possible. And I have a solution in Java that does exactly that.
But he's only talking about Java. He's not saying other languages do not have the solution.
Oh, it is possible in every language. So what you basically need is you have to, in the solution to Conway's game of life, or this type of problem, you have to abandon the idea of managing space. Instead, you manage matter in your data structures. And when you switch from space to matter, then it becomes very easy to deal with an infinite space.
Again, very parallel to spirituality. You forget what's outside, you control inside.
Manna is decidedly drawing lines between discussion and spirituality.
Though those are very obvious. I'm not taking any extra effort to do that. But a question to all of you. Why an organization should invest in conducting code retreats at their location?
Oh, I think there's a lot of reasons. The first reason is it's kind of a free training day. You get people meet to improve their skills.
Okay.
And in this training day, you get people in your organization to work with each other across departments and also across the limits of your organization, because it's a public event, so people from the outside will join. What I typically see is that it's about half-half, 50-50. So like 15 people from the organization, 15 people from outside. And that's an excellent learning mix. It's also a way how, as an organization, you can present yourself as being interested in the craft. I think organizations that show that they're interested in the craft of making software, in the art of making software, are more successful in finding the right people. Because finding the right people is a challenge for organizations.
It's like branding for developers.
Yeah.
Marketing to developers.
Yes. As a developer, what would you prefer? An organization that doesn't care about software, or an organization that does care about software? And if the organization cares about software, how well does it care about software? So you can show that you not only see yourself as an organization that produces software, but as an organization that is part of the community and therefore gives back to the community.
And then there are other things, like if you are probably planning to have some recruitment, this is one of the best place where you can, best way I would say, where you can find good people, because you judge people or you need to get to know people on various aspects. How that person is pairing with others, how he interacts with his juniors, how he interacts with his seniors, how technically good he is, and how well he is communicating. So the basic thing, like how he respects other person's opinion over his, and how he treats his pair. Sometimes it could happen that a person is just like having around 15 years of experience, will just grab the keyboard from the junior and I'll do it, and you just see. So you get to see that things. So this is something very good for.
And also probably how they respond to the hurdles.
Exactly.
In the form of constraints.
How flexible they are with this pattern of Coderetreat, where we say, okay, delete the code. They're like, why should I delete the code? I'm near to my solution. So how open they. First of all, when a person actually attends this kind of events, that already makes him much better candidate than people who are not even looking up for community events. So
one interesting point. Now that we have come to the topic of constraints, what are the most interesting constraints that you have enjoyed applying on a code?
Yeah, one of the most interesting constraints was, which I never told them before, was apparently I had a group which was completely into Java. So there was nothing major that I could tell them to do on technical or language specific level. I couldn't make them pair on like different languages on Python. Everyone was doing in Java. So what I did was, one of the constraints was just follow the previous content that they were doing, and add just when the session was done for the half the time, I asked them to stop, and then I asked them to switch the workstations. So apparently they had to work on other person's code, and the reason why I didn't tell them was because I wanted them to know their daily working habits or their daily code writing habits. So they got to know a lot of, and then they were very surprised. They were very skeptical when I asked them to switch their workplaces. They were like, you could have told us first. Exactly, I didn't want to. I didn't want you to write code there. I mean, I wanted them to code in their natural environment. That was one of the best.
So the code stays there.
The code stays there. People change, and then they have to take up from. So it was so important for a person to write a code that they could understand in such a short time. And
there's a lot of interesting constraints. Actually, we could fill another separate podcast talking about all the different constraints and activities that facilitators can give to the people. I still find quite a basic constraint interesting, the constraint of no variable reassignment, because our industry is still not up to the mark regarding functional programming skills. And another constraint which I find very interesting is the no naked primitives. It shows how limited our new languages like Java are compared to old languages like Pascal or Ada, even when it comes to the expressiveness and the limitations of types. The purpose of types are structural constraints to exclude certain classes of errors or mistakes from our software. And types in our current languages, even if it's a language like Java, are actually quite weak compared to the theoretical potential that types could have.
Yeah, I liked no talking constraint. I mean, it's very interesting that the only way you can communicate with your pair is through code, and you can't talk to them. And second is probably no mouse. It's no mouse or no trackpad also. We should say that, but yeah, that's also very interesting.
Literally, I have to monitor people. Because it's so obvious, people will go, their hand will go to the mouse. They'll then And then people try to, see if they are not coming, and then
when we say no talking, do they also like write on the paper or write inside in a comment inside the code? Yeah.
There's so many interesting constraints.
I guess we are also coming up on the time. In order to conclude, can we discuss it? When would be the ideal time to have a code retreat, and when is next GDCR?
Next GDCR is not scheduled yet. It's probably like every year. The date is going to be decided sometime in spring, around March, April, May. Is when the people decide, but it typically is towards the end of the year. It typically is shortly before or after Diwali, with enough distance to not cause problems to the Indian audience. So
do we have to wait till the next GDCR for a code retreat?
No, Coderetreat can be as you can just organize it at any point of time. What you need is just a few heads and a place. That's it.
Yeah.
And I guess if the attendees are pretty self-motivated, they don't even need a facilitator. They can just discuss.
Exactly. Actually, you don't need a facilitator to run a Coderetreat. You can, of course, get a facilitator, and if you want to be trained as a facilitator, just contact us. We regularly run Coderetreat facilitator trainings, and as I said, this is one of the trainings we run for free. So, and if you want any other help, like convincing your management about Coderetreat, teaching your HRs and your marketing about what a Coderetreat is and how to organize such events, or anything around Coderetreats, just feel free to contact any one of us. We can help you with that.
Yeah, we'll include the links in the show notes.
I usually charge a cup of tea.
Okay, it's in the charges. Yeah. if you want to pay me, give me a Red Bull.
Alright, so with that, let's...
Okay, I have a concluding thought. I want your approval on my understanding after listening to all you people. For me, the way I have interpreted it is Coderetreat is a function which takes software developer as input and gives software craftsman as an output.
Wow, you turned it into a state machine.
I like that. Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah. It performs an increment on your craft.
Okay,
so with that, we'll close this episode. Stay tuned for our next episode. This is Mandar signing off.
This is Nikhil signing off.
This is Christian signing off.
This is Siddesh signing off.